Oh, I still have the timer up, so you can see what our first topic of the show is going to be. Yeah, and you can only see what... That's interesting. Oh, I never noticed that. Okay, I gotta fix that one, because we're gonna need that later. There's the stream chat. Okay, I think we're all good. Huh. Remember, see, I think I mentioned that previously, how we have, how I keep track of how long these things go. Yeah, there you go. The Idle game. Oh. Blast Ball Trials. And win a squad and a solo. God, these definitely are not worth it. These haven't changed. Oh wait, they did. We just already had that one. Let's see. Solo, Blast Ball Trials. Okay, I guess we'll start off with Blast Ball Trials. Sure, I guess that'll be our first game tonight. Oh, yeah. God, I still don't know why the PlayStation is so much darker. Boom, there we go. Yeah, I have no idea why. It's just always a little darker. So, yeah. So tonight we have a pretty jam-packed show, all things considered. Like, there's a lot of shit to talk about. I got multiple TV shows to talk about tonight. So, yeah, there's a lot of... Today is a busy show. That's for sure. But I'm sure it'll all work out in the end. We just might go for fucking 3 hours. This is taking forever to start. Okay, we're clearly glitched or something. There we go. Alright, Blast Ball. I know how to do this one, more or less. We've won Blast Ball before. I'm sure we have. Gosh, this is definitely the most people I've ever seen in Blast Ball. There we go. So yeah. Anything else tonight? Nothing I can think of. I'm sure there's something. Yeah, honestly, this one is less interesting than some of the others. Like, I know Blast Ball. It's fine, I guess. I don't know how many rounds it goes through, admittedly. Oh. There we go. Oh, Huh. Curious and curious. I'm trying to find something right now. Okay, whatever. I have no idea if this is a finale. Gosh, dang, those... Honestly, the blast balls don't do as much knockback as you'd want them to. Like, in theory, I'd want them to do a lot of knockback. But they just don't. Most of the time. Sometimes they do a fair bit, but most of the time... They just knock people, like, straight up in the air. That's it. Okay, whatever. Honestly, whatever. It's Blast Ball, who cares? I mean, I'll take the easy XP, but... yeah. Because, yeah, we're on level 66. I don't know, there are people who I know have already completed the Season Pass. There are people who are in 100. Alright, I'm just gonna do some solos. Alright, so we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new stories tonight. Which, you know, not bad. Not bad. I mean, for a post E3 summer, yeah, six is actually a lot. Especially because 3 of them are game announcements. So yeah, our first story tonight is Ubisoft shutting down old games. So Ubisoft put out a thing. I think this actually happened last week. But we really are, like, a lot of the implications came out in the past week of, like, people really realizing, like, what this fully meant. Or this might have happened, like, Sunday morning. I don't remember the exact details. Or maybe even Saturday and I just missed it. But yeah, so Ubisoft is shutting down, like, some games. Now, this already gets to the problem of, like, oh, well, these are like, some of these are, like, some old, like, Division games and some old Assassin's Creed, like, online. Because, yeah, Assassin's Creed used to have an online mode. I feel like everyone kind of sort of forgets about it, but yeah, Assassin's Creed used to have an online mode. So they're shutting down that, which already, like, that just shows, like, the non-permanence of games, right? That games with these online modes will be shut down. Of course, sometimes you have a big enough fan base that they'll bring it back. For example, Mario Kart Wii has a large enough fan base that people have, like, created their own servers to play Mario Kart Wii. So that does happen on occasions. But, like, nobody gives a shit about Assassin's Creed 3 online multiplayer. That's never being brought back. No, nobody's gonna bring that back. Right? Which just shows the impermanence of online games. That eventually, theoretically, all online games will be shut down. Which, if that was just the story, you know, it'd suck. But it's happened plenty of times before. Again, currently, the Wii U and 3DS eShops only have about a year left before they're shut down forever. Which is why it is morally okay to pirate Nintendo games. But it's also morally okay to pirate Ubisoft games now as well, because not only is this shutting down some online functionality for certain games, but, and this is the big part, it's also shutting down some single-player games and some DLCs. So, like, there are certain Assassin's Creed games that if you purchase the DLC for said Assassin's Creed game, as of these games being shut down, and I want to say September, you will no longer be able to play those DLCs. I don't know exactly which DLCs they are. I don't know exactly which ones. I just know certain games are having their DLCs shut down. The bigger thing, though, so that already is pretty fucking terrible. The fact that, oh, you can own... I'm going to use Assassin's Creed 3 as an example. You can own Assassin's Creed 3 and have its DLC, but as of September, you will no longer be able to play that DLC, even though you own it and you have it downloaded to your system. Right? That's already pretty fucked up on its own. But what makes it even worse is that there are some games that you just straight up won't be able to play anymore. Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, which was in a collection with Assassin's Creed 3, you will no longer be able to play. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Liberations HD will be... and it just was on, like, Steam sale, like, last week for, like, a few bucks. And yeah, as of September... whatever, I know it's September. I want to say the 8th, but I could be wrong about that. It will be shut down, and if you own it, you will no longer be able to play it. Even if you have it, like, down... I don't know about, like a console disc version. But I know, like, if you... like, I don't know if you own, like, the PS4 version, if it still works. But the Steam version, anyways, as of that date, it will no longer work. Which is really kind of fucked up. The fact that a single-player game will just be shut down, no longer work as of September 1st. Okay, I looked it up. Yeah, no, that's really fucked up. that a single player game that you bought, you will no longer be able to play because Ubisoft has decided that you no longer get to play them because you don't own that game anymore. Of course, fans will find a way around this, right? Someone who actually gives a shit. Unlike you. Wait. I saw a course in there I've never seen before. In like the spinning rotation thing. Whatever. But yeah, no, it really, the fact that, because this is what the industry has always wanted. For you to buy a game that you don't actually own. This is what the industry has been, this is the fear of digital gaming. Because at least when you own a disc game, you own that game on disc. You can play it. Right? Like that was, for all of its things, on older systems like your NES, you just put the game in your system, no need for patches or anything, it just worked. But now, as we get into the modern day, games will, right, they all need patches, because of course no game is bug-free. I mean, to be fair, NES games were not bug-free either. But like, it's developers give a lot less of a shit nowadays. But, yeah, now companies can just decide that, oh, well, we don't want you playing our game anymore, so we're going to revoke everyone's access to it. And that's it. And we've seen this before. PT, oh god, there are other famous examples. PT is the first one. And technically, I'm pretty sure if you own a PS4 with PT on it, you can still play PT on it. There was a rumor at one point that anyone who even owned it on their system could no longer play it. I don't think that was true. I think that rumor ended up being false. Like, they did some testing. But for a while, it was a real concern that people who had PT would just completely lose access to it forever. Ended up not being true, but it's a real concern. Because once that's gone, because Konami could decide to just take that away from people, and that's it. That's the end of PT forever. Of course, there will always be like the fan-made versions of it, but it'll never be the same as the original. It is really fucked up when you think about it. It really is. But yeah, the gaming industry is completely fucked. Which is why it's morally okay to pirate Ubisoft games. Because I'm not saying to do it. I'm just saying it's morally okay. Because if Ubisoft's not going to sell you the game, and they're going to take away your access to the game whenever they feel like it, that means it's morally okay. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying you're in the right for doing it. Yeah, no, fuck Ubisoft. They're the company that, I haven't said this yet, but they're the company that mentally and physically abuses their employees. They can absolutely go fuck themselves. God damn, I keep getting ads for Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. And I'm like, and I still don't think that game looks bad at all. I think it actually looks pretty decent. But I will not be picking it up because fuck Ubisoft. They mentally and physically abuse their employees. Fuck them, you know? So, on to our next thing. So when it comes to game announcements, everyone was waiting for a Nintendo Direct. We finally got the Nintendo Direct Mini, and I mean, people really liked it. I thought it was okay. You know, I'm not a big JRPG fan, but if you are, you're swimming on cloud 9, man. But I'm kind of whatever on it. The whole thing. Again, I like JRPGs, I just don't play them. And RPGs in general. It's not just JRPGs, it's RPGs in general. The exception of Pokemon. But, so we were all expecting a Nintendo Direct, and then we got the Direct Mini. And I was like, you know, there's still totally the possibility that Nintendo will do another Direct. But I was also floating around the theory that maybe the reason we just didn't get a Nintendo Direct was because Nintendo just didn't have anything to announce. That for as much as, like, we know for a fact COVID hit Nintendo harder than maybe any other game studio. But, and well, yes, COVID is still alive and well. You know, there are still tons of people who aren't vaccinated, who are happily spreading the disease. I mean, Greg Miller just got COVID today, so, right, it hasn't gone anywhere. But you know, there was this hope that like, oh, well, it's been a few years since COVID started. A lot of people have switched to remote work, and especially in like the game development scene, there's a lot of opportunity to switch to remote work there. There's a lot more flexibility, whereas with admittedly, a lot of jobs have remote work possibilities in the modern world. It's just the only difference is that corporations have to justify spending millions of dollars on these giant buildings, right, to house their employees with their massive fucking parking lots. Whereas we could take any of these office buildings and just turn them into like apartments, and they would do infinitely more than they would as these giant like mega corporation headquarters, right? They're fucking worthless, right? Work from home, I know people like... It's all about control, right? Every study ever done shows that employees perform better working from home, but companies don't care because they want control. And even though there is plenty of spy software that employers love to put on computers, it doesn't mean anything to them. But yeah, so that all takes us back to Nintendo. Maybe they just didn't have anything to announce. So what was I saying? Yeah, so maybe Nintendo just doesn't have much to announce. Because if you remember 2020, Nintendo didn't have anything to announce. So we got a Nintendo Direct Mini, and then a few weeks later, they announced Pikmin 3 and Paper Mario the Origami King. And maybe we're in that exact same scenario, because this week, Nintendo on like Tuesday were like, hey, here's a brand new Kirby game. It's a smaller Kirby game, which is the first thing we'll talk about. But then the next day on Wednesday, they announced, hey, here's a new trailer for Bayonetta 3. And I would not be surprised if this upcoming Tuesday they announce something else new. Maybe Nintendo's not showing anything just because they don't have much to announce. Maybe that's why they did the Nintendo Direct Mini. They just don't have much to announce. That's told with Breath of the Wild gone. I mean, maybe things would be a different story if Breath of the Wild was here, right? Maybe things would play out just a little differently. But with Breath of the Wild gone, right? And Pokemon does its own schedule, right? Pokemon does whatever Pokemon wants. They would never have been in a Nintendo Direct in the first place. But yeah. So yeah, maybe I'm expecting more stuff from Nintendo, but it's also clear they just don't have much to announce. Because yeah, Nintendo, again, people bring this up all the time. The first year of the Switch was so amazing. And then every subsequent year just hasn't even gotten close to being that good. That doesn't mean every subsequent... I think people give like 2018 and 2019 Switch way too much shit. People are way too negative on the Switch in 2018 and 2019. Those are both actually pretty good years. 2020, actually not that... Like, yeah, there was a lot less stuff because of COVID and whatnot. But 2020 and 2021 have not actually been that terrible. But there was a lot of hope for 2022. And now in my opinion, all that hope's gone. Right? Nintendo just doesn't have that much to show. Doesn't mean they aren't putting out good shit. I mean, Xenoblade, Splatoon 3. They just put out a new Fire Emblem that I have not actually seen a single person talk about. Like, I'm assuming it's good, but I legitimately have no idea, as I've never seen a person talk about it. But yeah. So yeah, all that brings us to the first game they announced, Kirby's Dream Buffet. So, in my opinion, this is the culmination. So when Kirby, the new Kirby game came out, whose name I am completely spacing on. I almost called it Planet Robobot there for a second. Kirby, in the Forgotten Lands, there was someone made a song on TikTok about Kirby balls at Kirby balls at your local Target store. I just sang that completely off key. Right? Somebody made a joke like that. And now they're making, and I feel like that joke has reached its pinnacle with this Kirby's Dream Buffet, which is literally a Kirby Balls video game. And of course the person who made the original song came back and did another one for this game. Yeah. Oh, we just barely made it. But yeah, so it's Kirby's Dream Buffet. I have seen a lot of people comparing it to Fall Guys. And they're not wrong, right? I definitely do see the similarities. It's not like Fall Guys is this big, like, 60-player Battle Royale thing that has you completing, like, obstacle courses and whatnot, and, like, gathering stuff, and... There's another one. I saw a Row of Hammers. I've never seen that one before. It's probably just a variant of an already existing map, but I've never seen that before. But yeah. A lot of people are comparing it to Fall Guys. What it clearly is based on, and probably Fall Guys has some influence, but what it personally reminds me of is Gourmet Race. I almost called it Dream Course. No, Gourmet Race. Gourmet Race was like a Kirby mini game, and one of the, oh god, was it Superstar? I think it was Superstar. Yeah, Dream Course was this whole thing, or yeah, Gourmet Race, I mean. I keep wanting to call it Dream Course. Gourmet Race had you, like, collecting food, right? Kind of like this Dream Buffet. Dream Buffet has you going around collecting food as you roll as a Kirby ball. The detail I like, but now if you've never played Gourmet Race, you can actually play it in Super Smash Bros. Kind of. Oh my, of course this pineapple shows up right at the worst time. Yeah, there's this whole mode in Smash Bros. Where you can actually kind of play like a mini version of Gourmet Race. It's cute, you know. Come on, turn on, turn on. But yeah, so Gourmet Race is, it's okay, but I do totally see the Fall Guys influence as well. It's not this big massive 60 player thing. It's four players local and online probably. But there are some races that probably have like bots. So it might be like if it was like 16 player online, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't think it is. It's definitely 4 player though. 4 player probably online and offline. It's probably a couch co-op game because Nintendo loves couch co-op, and I like that Nintendo still does couch. It's Nintendo and Jackbox are the ones keeping couch co-op alive. I know, I think Halo still has couch co-op, but like that's the only exception. Other than Nintendo and Jackbox, no, nobody else gives a shit. But yeah, no, I think it looks cute. You know, it's a Kirby game, you're racing on cakes, you're bouncing on eggs. You know, it's a cute little game that I could totally see being a lot of fun. You know, the weird thing is we didn't get a release date. We got the release window of summer 2022, which currently we are in summer 2022. So it actually really surprises me that we didn't get a release date for this, which I don't think this is going to be a free-to-play game. I know previous Kirby games have been free-to-play. I don't think this one will be. It might, but I don't think it will be. Really? That didn't... Oh my god. That guy got to it first. What? I'm having the worst luck here. But yeah, I think the game itself looks Right, it looks very simple. I hope it's not a... I'd rather... I know Kirby is one of the only other Nintendo franchises to go free-to-play, like Kirby and Pokemon, but... Oh, come on. I really hope... I'd rather pay money for this game, honestly. For Kirby's Dream Buffet. Yeah, I would rather have it be like a $10, maybe $15 game, and I'd easily pay money for it. But knowing Nintendo, it's either gonna be free to play, or they're going to charge like $40 for it, which is this. Based on what we see in the trailer, this does not look like a $40 game. I mean, even Fall Guys, I think, was like $25 at launch. I might be wrong about that, but that sounds right in my head. Yeah, it looks cute. It looks cute, and yeah, it's just weird that it doesn't have. It's just the release date is just summer. That's a very random release date. Or that's a very random release window because we're halfway through summer. I mean, it's what, July 16th? That's summer ends in August. I mean, technically it ends later than that, but who gives a shit about the fall equinox or whatever, right? Well, and especially because the seasons are shifting because of global warming, but yeah, it's all semantics. The other game, so right, like I said, the following day they announced another game. That being, well, we already knew about this one, but we got the first official bit for Bayonetta 3, right? Their first bit in a while. This game gives us the official release date of October 28th, which is a release date that makes a lot of sense. I was kind of expecting something in that window, so I think October 28th is a good release date, especially because I don't know if Nintendo has anything coming out in October at the moment. Because Pokemon's November, and Splatoon is September. So having this game in having this game come out when Bayonetta 3 come out in October makes sense. They also announced as part of that in September Bayonetta 1 will be getting a physical release. Because Bayonetta 1, while it is on Switch, it never got a physical release. Only a digital release. So they're officially giving Bayonetta 1 a, yeah, they're officially giving Bayonetta 1 a physical release in September. Ah, crap. So close. Yeah, so that's... Bayonetta is a game that... I played the first Bayonetta on... I want to say 360. I did not play it on Wii U. I did not play it on... Switch. Or on... Yeah, I did not play Bayonetta 1 or 2 on Wii U. Honestly, I would love for the... You know how Nintendo does, like, those free trial things occasionally? Where they're like, oh, here's a game we're giving away as like a free trial for like a week, right? They did it with Captain Toad. They did it with Stardew Valley. They did it with Monster Hunter. I would love for them to give Bayonetta, the first Bayonetta, a free trial week, where it's like, oh, you can, for 1 week, you can play Bayonetta completely for free, as long as you have Nintendo Switch Online. That might actually get me to try Bayonetta 1 again. Because I know people really like Bayonetta 1 and 2, but I'm just not a fan of spectacle fighters. I didn't like Bayonetta, I didn't like Devil May Cry. The only exception is really Lollipop Chainsaw. And I only ever played I beat Lollipop Chainsaw, but by the end, I was kind of struggling to get through it. Right? Like, near the end. But I did like that game. And again, in theory, I liked Bayonetta. But I don't even think I got halfway through the game. Right? I didn't even get halfway through. But I'd be willing to give it another shot. I just don't want to pay all the money for a game I might not even like, or buy 1 and 2 at the same time, you know? But the new one, it looks good, and one of the details I do like about it is, so Nintendo has always had a complication with, like, M-rated games, and the new Bayonetta is obviously an M-rated game, right? It's one of Nintendo's, like, 2 M-rated series. Because, well, Bayonetta, it's a second-party game, but, you know, that's close enough. Yeah, so Bayonetta is heavily features not like hard, like X-rated nudity, but it's nudity nevertheless. It's just like they don't show like nipples and they don't show vag, right? But it's still basically like 90%. So in the new game, to deal with that, because Nintendo famously on the SNES, they had Mortal Kombat, but by default they had an anti-blood mode turned on. But you could like go into the code, or you could like enter like a cheat code, I mean, and turn off the anti-blood mode. And yeah, that's kind of what they're doing for Bayonetta 3, where they didn't say if, I'm assuming the game's on, right, it's default nudity. But there is an option in the settings to turn off the nudity. And I think that's a great compromise. That allows Nintendo to have their family-friendly games, while also allowing Bayonetta to be as rated R, M as they want. Because, right, if some younger kid wants to play Bayonetta, well, now they can. Of course, I don't know how young of a kid should be playing Bayonetta, but that's up for their neglectful parents to decide. You know, parents who don't understand the basic concepts of the ESRB, which, trust me, there are anyone who's ever worked at a game store can tell you there are plenty of parents who don't know what the ESRB is, but yet get really pissed off when they buy their kids Grand Theft Auto 5. Because, yeah, it's their fucking fault. But yeah, no, the new Bayonetta 3, right, I think that nudity thing, I'm actually all aboard for it, right? Because it's basically like, it's kind of like how trigger warnings are basically the opposite of censorship, because you can write whatever you want, and as long as you put the proper trigger warnings in place, nobody will write, like, it's fine. It's not trigger warnings are not a get out of jail free card, but you know, it's basically the opposite of censorship. And yeah, that's kind of what this is. This is basically, Nintendo could have just censored this game, because Bayonetta is a second-party series to them. But no, they're letting them go full all out with it, and then just having a version that doesn't have the nudity. It's kind of like what they did with Deadpool 2, where there was, right, the default, by default, Deadpool 2 had, right, violence and nudity and all that shit. But then they released a special PG-13 cut, and I would not be surprised if, because we know Deadpool 3, as part of the MCU, is going to probably R-rated as well. I would not be surprised if they do the same thing for Deadpool 3. And right, they even crack a joke that, right before we did the PG-13 cut as more of like a joke sort of thing, but now Disney's actually forcing us to do it, right? Like, there's an honest joke there. But we're also getting the rated R cut, so I have less reason to complain. Yeah, it's literally the opposite of censorship. So, yeah, I'm all aboard for it. I probably would never play with it, but you know, so I'm sure somebody will. So yeah, no, I didn't see anybody complain about this. Statistically, somebody did, because there are just unlovable cunts out there who can't enjoy something if somebody else is enjoying it as well. So I'm sure there's somebody who was complaining, but I didn't see it. Yeah, those were Nintendo's 2 reveals. I'm sure we'll get another one here in the coming... I don't know what more Nintendo has to reveal, honestly. But I'm sure there's something, so I'm sure, like, in the next few weeks we'll get another one. I fully expect Twilight Princess and Wind Waker to be one of these Twitter reveals. And I should also say, I'm not against these Twitter reveals. Back in 2020, I even said that maybe these Twitter reveals were for the best. Because when Nintendo Directs happen, people just hype themselves up and get inevitably disappointed, right? People are their own worst enemies. The idea of a Nintendo Direct will let you down more than the actual Nintendo Direct, right? The idea of the Nintendo Direct in your head. But by just dropping random announcements on Twitter, well, hey, there's no expectations. It's just, you wake up one morning and there's a new Kirby game, and it looks fun, right? So yeah, no, I'm still all aboard for these reveals. Yeah, go right ahead, do it all. Yeah. So also Nintendo, they announced a few days ago that they're buying up not a video game company, but a 3D I guess I'm gonna use 3D animation studio, like a production. I guess production house is probably the better word. They're buying up a production house called Dynamo Pictures. Now, previously, Nintendo has worked with Dynamo Pictures on Metroid Other M, right? So if you never played Metroid Other M, it has a lot of cutscenes in it, and they're all really good looking cutscenes actually. Like for the Wii, no, I actually think like they're a lot better than like Mario and Minis on the Move, which as the story goes, supposedly spent like $3 million on CGI cutscenes, and Miyamoto found out and got so annoyed he personally went to the developers and told them off, and they didn't even look like that great. Yeah, no, that's a real look at the $3 million estimate might be wrong, but like seriously, Nintendo, the Nintendo studio doing the Mario Minis on the Move got yelled off by Miyamoto, who was so annoyed with them. The other thing, speaking of Miyamoto and his baby Pikmin, the Dynamo Pictures also worked on the Pikmin shorts. A few years ago on 3DS, they released a few Pikmin shorts that I think you could buy, there were like 3 of them that you could buy for like $5. They're now all on YouTube, right? They were probably on YouTube at the time, but I think back in like 2019 or something, Nintendo just uploaded them all, right? Was like, whatever, and just uploaded them all to YouTube. So yeah, you can find all 3 of them on YouTube. They're all actually really good. If you've got a few minutes just to sit down and watch them, I think it's probably like 10-15 minutes total. They're all really good. So yeah, I recommend watching those. But of course, Dynamo Pictures has worked on other stuff. They worked on Nier, they worked on Persona 5, they worked on Death Stranding. So they're not just, they don't just have a history with Nintendo. But Nintendo has purchased them. And now this did get some people speculating, because currently Nintendo is working with Illumination to make a Mario Brothers movie that has literally had 0 marketing, which actually has a lot of people concerned about whether or not the movie's going to be good or not, right? The concern's not unfounded, per se. But yeah, it does have, right, people are worried about whether or not it's going to be good. And the fact that it got delayed is actually not a good sign. But as part of it, some people have begun... Oh my god, you asshole. Some people have begun speculating that, what if Nintendo is, buying Dynamo Pictures, I mean, to, make movies and whatnot. That doesn't seem to be what the studio does. From what I can tell, they don't make movies, per se. But, they might be the studio that makes the cutscenes for Super Mario Odyssey 2. Or the new Donkey Kong game, or another Metroid game. That'd be cool. It's totally possible. As part of this, as far as I can tell, this is real. Nintendo plans on renaming Dynamo Pictures into Nintendo Pictures. So, they'll fully just be a Nintendo studio that makes, they're a production house that specifically makes stuff for Nintendo. So that seemed right. Then that makes sense, you know, just changing them from Dynamo Pictures to Nintendo Pictures. Okay, sure. It's totally possible. But yeah, it's just, you know, okay. I think some of the speculation about, like, the whole Illumination thing is a little unfounded. Or it's definitely hyperbolic, to say the least, but the actual Nintendo buying it, okay. You know, everyone else is buying up studios. The Sony now officially owns Bungie as of, like, 2 days ago. Right? Like, that deal is officially, like, finished. And Sony now owns Bungie. So, yeah. Right? All these companies are buying up studios. Nintendo's always the weird studio. They won't save Alpha Dream, but they'll do this. Sure, why not? As long as they don't get fucked over like they did with Rare. As long as they don't get fucked over like they did with Rare. Or, was it Argonaut? Was Argonaut the other studio? I think it was Argonaut. As long as they don't get... And admittedly, Argonaut was not Nintendo fucking over, right? Losing, like, Rare. Argonaut was Nintendo fucking over Argonaut. Like, they got screwed over by Nintendo. It's one of those things that's mostly forgotten. But yeah, Nintendo has played dirty in the past. Specifically during the Bit Wars. In order to try to beat Sega and... Actually, Argonaut got screwed over from Nintendo trying to beat PlayStation. But that's a whole other thing. Yeah, next up, speaking of PlayStation, so PlayStation announced a new loyalty program for PlayStation users called PlayStation Stars. So it's a free-to-join program, and you can get rewards by completing campaigns, activities, trophies. Loyalty points can be redeemed for PSN wallet funds, for example, and it'll be launching later this year. We don't actually know much about this. Part of me wonders if this is kind of, like, you know how Nintendo has their loyalty program where you get the gold coins for buying games and you get the platinum coins for, like, doing, like, basically achievements. I wonder if it's going to be very similar to that, where, right, you've got these coins that you can, right, you've got, like, oh, you did an achievement? Here's, like, 4 silver coins that you can use to get, like, new wallpapers and whatnot. But then, oh, you bought a game? Well, hey, now you're going to get some gold points, and like, every 1 gold point equals, like, 1 cent you can get off of a future game. I know that's exactly Nintendo's system, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they do something like that, you know? That'd be a very on-brand Nintendo sort of move. Or did I say Nintendo? Honestly, I meant Sony, but yeah. It would not, maybe it'll be something different, but if it's just like the Nintendo reward program, I know Xbox also has some sort of Microsoft reward program that technically works a little differently. But either way, whatever they do end up doing, I wouldn't at all be surprised. But yeah, so that was a thing that got announced. You know, honestly, the only time I use the Nintendo reward system is to round up totals. So, like, oh, this game is $10, but then it adds, like, 37 cents in tax. Well, hey, now I'm just going to use the gold points to get rid of the tax, right? So it's just an even, like, $30 or whatever. Right, that's the only time I really use Nintendo Gold points. I don't really see much of a use for them. I mean, I think I got, like, Among Us for free, right? Just because it was, like, 99 cents. And I was just like, I'll use the gold points to get it. But yeah, so it's not... It's whatever. This seems to be something somewhat similar. Oh, wow, how'd you get up there? Man. Next up, we got some details on Skate 20... I don't think it has a release date. I don't think it's going to be this year. I'm going to say Skate 2023. Because, so, there's a new Skate game that was announced to be in development by EA. I want to say, it might have been last year, but I think it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, EA announced there was a new Skate game in development. And we got some new, like, early access footage. The game is still in early development, but we got a few other details. Specifically, the game is basically a reboot, just called Skate. So it's just going to be called Skate. It's a live service, free-to-play game, which, that kills the game for me. You know, I know there are some people who will still, because, you know, they love Skate. And, I mean, I was always I was a Tony Hawk fan. And guess what? Activision Blizzard killed off Tony Hawk by destroying Visceral, because they were going to remake 3 and 4. So yeah, guess what? Everything comes at a terrible cost. You will never be happy again. Right? Your childhood is dead. Just let the past die sometimes. But yeah, this new Skate game, a live service free-to-play, that instantly kills it for me. I no longer... I know a lot of people who actually talk very highly about Skate. I technically own Skate 3, but, like, this was back when I was sharing a console with my brothers. So, like, I never actually played it because they played it, and my dad. But yeah, that was way back in the day. That was the Xbox 360. And yeah. But yeah, so I was never a big Skate fan, but I know a lot of people really like Skate. Right? I know it's a very beloved series. Even though I swear I remember back when Skate 3 released, people complaining about how buggy and broken it was. But all that information seems to be, or all those like takes, right? All those people who thought it was just a buggy, broken game, that all seems to be lost to time. Nobody gives a shit anymore. People just fought, right? It's kind of like some of the like Fallout New Vegas, where like people just don't give a shit anymore, and it's just a fondly remembered game nowadays. Which, you know, Fallout New Vegas is fondly remembered for the right reasons, for all the good the game does. But yeah, maybe the same thing with Skate. But yeah, being a live service free-to-play game, that just makes it, again, I mean, I already have Fall Guys. I don't need any other live service free-to-play games. It's coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, with cross-play / cross-progression. Microtransactions will focus on cosmetics and convenience. It's that convenience. I wonder what that means. That's not a good sign. We know for a fact EA is happy to sell pay-to-win items. So, who the fuck knows what that means? I can actually tell you exactly what that means. It's going to be double XP boosters. You know, it's going to be, oh, hey, you can spend a microtransaction to get a double XP booster where for 1 hour you get in-game double XP. That's exactly what it's going to be. As someone who can see the future, that's it. That's exactly it. And yeah, the game is still in early development. I don't give a shit about this game. Just being completely honest, this game does nothing for me now. I might have been interested in it at one point, but now I just don't care. It's fucking free-to-play live service, that kills it for me. If you're still excited for it, then yeah, no, there's nothing stopping you from being excited for it, right? Don't let some jack-off on the internet tell you what to think. I'm just saying what I think. And what I think is, I don't give a shit. Because guess what? I don't give a shit anymore. Gosh, you gotta win a lot of games for this one. It's not that many, but yeah. Alright, I'm gonna go get some water real quick. When I get back, we will do WIBE. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. I've watched like 5 shows. Well, I finished a bunch of stuff. So yeah, we got Spider-Man, we got Miss Marvel's finale, and I finally finished the Owl House Season 2. So yeah, when I get back, we'll talk about that. I'll be back in a few minutes. We're gonna switch over to squads. So I saw this TikTok trend that was like, that took one of those like bottles of Simply Lemonade and added a packet of Kool-Aid to it. And I was like, oh, you know what? That sounds interesting. I'll have to try that at some point. Oops. And so I was like, oh, I'll have to try that at some point. And then when I was at the store the other day, I remembered it and I was like, oh yeah. I did see that, didn't I? So yeah, I added a packet of cherry Kool-Aid to Simple Lemonade. And it was fine. You know, honestly, part of me wonders if you need more Kool-Aid. Like, if I should have used 2 packets instead of 1. Because the cherry flavor wasn't too strong. But it's literally, like, it's already lemonade, so it's already good. And then you add the Kool-Aid to it, and it's like, okay. And I'm not a fan of Kool-Aid. Mainly because, you know, I grew up with white people Kool-Aid. And that just don't hit the spot at all. So, yeah, I'm not really... But, like, in theory, just adding Kool-Aid to lemonade, right? Because lemonade's already got tons of sugar in it. And it's already got the lemon. So, like, it's a pretty solid idea. Because as a... And, you know, it's funny, I say I grew up with white people Kool-Aid, but I'm not white. But that's just, you know, that's how it is. But yeah, so I've never been that big of a fan, but you know, it was okay. You know, I'd probably do it again. I wish there was more of it. Like, I went through the lemonade in like 2 days, which, yeah. 'Cause yeah, I like lemonade. I don't love it, but I like it. So yeah. But you know, I see those occasional food trends on TikTok, and I'm always like, oh, I should try that. And I've tried some of them. Like, there was one where you take like a box of Kraft mac and cheese, and you know, instead of boiling the water, then adding the packet and some butter and milk after you boiled the noodles, you instead add the noodles, cheese, water, and then simmer down until you're left with like a sort of like a creamy cheese sauce. And I was like, oh, I'll try that. And it turned out pretty good the first time I did it. The second time, I don't think I did it good. But the first time I tried it, I was like, yeah, no, it takes a little longer, but it's not bad. Yeah, I liked it. So, yeah. Yeah, you know, there's so many foods, like random weird food stuffs, that I feel like I've just completely forgotten to talk about. Like, did I ever talk about the Windy Strawberry Frosty? It was whatever, honestly. The reason why I think it's whatever, though, that doesn't help me, is I'm allergic to strawberry. Not in, like, a way that'll, like, kill me, but it just makes me, like, want to throw up. Right? So I was like, you know, I'll try just a little bit. And yeah, you could definitely tell it was strawberry. Not the strong... Like, you get, like, a strawberry shake from Sonic that's going to have stronger flavor. But, you know, I'm sure somebody will like it. It's weird they got rid of... I mean, I guess I get why they got rid of vanilla, because I'm sure their Frosty machines can only do 2 flavors. Yeah, it was whatever, you know. And I'm sure there's other stuff I've tried as well that I'm completely forgetting. I mean, I don't think I've talked about anything in like a month. Still disappointed I never found Baja Punch. I hate that they only do the 1 production run. And that's it. And if you miss that 1 production run, you'll never find it again for the rest of the summer. That always sucks. Because, yeah, I found Baja Blast, but not the Punch. And I never found it again. So, yeah, on to WIBE. What have I been enjoying? Well... Have I played any video games? Oh, yeah. I played Shovel of Hope. Yep, because last week we did Spectre of Torment. The week before that, we did, Plague of Shadows. So yeah, I played Shovel of Hope, the original Shovel Knight campaign. I didn't 100% it. Technically, I think I only got like somewhere in like the 80%. I think I had like 88. But I think all the things I was missing were the music notes. Right? I had every armor set. I had every ability, or like every item. I had all the upgrades. The only thing I'm pretty sure I was missing were music notes. So yeah, but yeah, other than that, I played through all of Shovel of Hope. I got everything. It took me about 3 hours, which is less time than Plague of Shadows, but more than Spectre of Torment. And yeah, it's still a fantastic game. I do definitely have, like, if I would choose, because Plague of Shadows and Spectre of Torment are very similar. So if I had to choose between the two, I would definitely choose Plague of Shadows first. Because, well, yeah, it took me an hour longer. That hour, right, it's just, I like the physics more. Because, well, Plague of Shadows is one of those, like, it has a pretty steep learning curve. But if you can get through that learning curve, man, if you can get up that wall, you will have a good time with Plague of Shadows. Like, if you can master the movement. Meanwhile, Shovel of Hope, it just, even though Plague of Shadows took me longer, Shovel of Hope just feels slower. Which, again, the speed run's like 30, I think the speed run is faster than Plague of Shadow. It's something wild like that. Like, it actually has a shorter speed run, that's Shovel of Hope. But yeah, Come on, hit. There we go. But yeah, I like Shovel of Hope. But yeah, I would definitely play Plague of Shadows. There's a reason I played Plague of Shadows first, right, instead of Shovel of Hope. Because I do definitely think it's the stronger campaign. Even though they are very similar. Right? Because they're paralogs. They're doing very similar things. Just doing it in different ways. But yeah, other than that, we're doing like I said, on Tuesday, we're going to be starting King of Cards. Hopefully that will only take 2 streams to do all of King of Cards. I was hoping it was going to be 1, but it probably won't be. It'll probably be 2. The only thing other than that, okay, so I saw a TikTok where they mentioned, like, oh, they've been watching this Minecraft series called Double Life, where it's 2 people share the same life. And they were wondering if they could use that for, like, a D&D campaign, right? Like, it's more about, like, wouldn't that be a great concept for a D&D campaign if 2 players had, like, 1 life? And so I was like, oh, Minecraft series where players share a life. Oh, that sounds interesting. I'm curious about that. So I looked it up, right? I looked it up, and the series is called Double Life. And the top video was Grian. I've never watched Grian. I'm sure I've seen him in other videos, specifically something like Mumbo Jumbo related. But I know people just love Grian. So I was like, you know what? People really like this guy. I'll give it a shot. So I sat down and I watched Double Life. At the time, there were 4 episodes. Since then, a 5th one came out. But so I was like, oh, you know what? I'll watch it. I binged through all of Double Life. And I was like, oh, fuck, that was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed Double Life. So, and this was on, like, Monday. So I was like, you know what? Okay. I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch Second Life. Or the first. So Double Life is the 3rd season. The first season is called Third Life. The second season is called Last Life. But I also expect there to be a series called Half-Life. Because I know Half-Life is the video game, but I don't know. But so I went back and I watched both Third Life and Last Life. Third Life, the first season, is fantastic. I totally get why people wanted more of that. It's basically just, it's a hardcore series where you have 3 lives. On your first, right, you've got a first life. Your first and second lives are, you know, pretty standard. It's like hardcore. But then on your third life, you become, right, you go from green to yellow to red. And on your third life, you become aggressive towards the other players. Right? You don't have to, like, go, like, all out, like, villain. But you can. And it's just the shit that goes on in that series, man, is so good. I really enjoy, right, Third Life was just super entertaining from beginning to end. Right, seeing Alliance. It's kind of like a few weeks ago I talked about, I think it was Ish, who did like a Minecrafters, like Prisoner's Dilemma, having 100 players like stuck on an island. It's Third Life is kind of like a microcosm of that, because I think technically Third Life came first. So yeah, but yeah, it's basically like that, right? You had like in Third Life, you had the desert faction with Green and Scar, and then you had Dogwarts, led by King Ren, and basically all the players broke up into 2 sides. And, you know, players, like, could set traps for each other as player, like, because, like, Scar in Third Life becomes, like, the first aggressive player. So, like, there's a big element to that, like, oh, now Green is teamed up with Scar, and now they have the chance to, like, start setting traps, because Scar is evil, you know, he can start attacking people. Of course, none of the traps ever work. Like, it becomes a running joke in the series that traps never work. And yeah, that still holds true for Last Life and Double Life. Yeah, Double Life is the exact same rules, except for you have a, like, instead of, like, forming an alliance, you have a guaranteed partner, right? You have someone on your team who you share lives with and you're stuck with. Last Life on the other, so I thought Third Life was great. I think Double Life is fantastic. Third Life Last Life, the second season, I think is fine. They make some rule changes, some of which I do think are for the better. One of the rule changes is, what was it? So when you become red, like when Scar became red, him and Green just continued working together. But in Last Life, when you become red, you have to break off all your ties. So like anyone who you were working with, you could no longer work with. But if you could convince another player to give you an extra life, that, you know, that can bring you back. So like if, you become red, and then you convince another player to give you a life, and you become yellow again, well, now you can go back to your old alliance. And then, and I should say all these series I've been watching through Green's perspective. Just because, you know, he's the first one. I didn't even know BOO was still making content. Honestly, I haven't heard anything from BOO in forever. I knew Etho was still making content. I just hadn't watched it. Even back in the day, I didn't watch Etho as much as I did watch other people. Now, because I used to watch Minecraft. Like, I don't watch Hermitcraft. I maybe watched the first season, but other than that, I didn't watch Hermitcraft. But I did watch Mindcrack back in the day. And seeing BOO again and Etho has just brought back all these old Mindcrack memories. Specifically the trial, where I don't remember who sued them, but Generic B and BOO, the B team as they called themselves, were put on trial for doing, I think they stole something. And then they were executed, but at the last minute saved by Milby, who they were considering to join the B team. Oh, and I think Vintage Beef was the judge, if I remember correctly. I don't know. This was like freaking 7 years ago now. But oh my gosh, it brought, specifically BOO, it just brought back all these memories. Yeah, because I used to be a big fan of Generic B. Man, I used to love Generic B. And I think he still streams, but who cares? You know, whatever. Yeah, so the other thing in Last Life is that there's like a boogeyman, which the boogeyman has to kill a person, and if they don't, they get turned into a red person. And like, instead of doing like these like long, where they're like constantly playing, they do sessions. So it'll be like, oh, here's a 3-hour session, right? So they do like a 3-hour session every Friday. And I definitely feel like that's the best way to do a series like this. But yeah, because in Last Life, they all start with like a random amount of lives. So like Green starts off with 2, whereas like some players start off with like 6, Scar. But yeah, it was also cool to see Mumbo in the second season. But I just didn't like Last Life as much as the other two. I felt like Third Life and Double Life have just been so much better. Not that I like hate it, but definitely by the end, I was less interested. Right? It was definitely less when people get in front of the ball, that's what ruins it. Oh my god. Like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say that our teammate's the one with the peace symbol is intentionally sabotaging us. But yeah, no, so watching all three of I now want to play Minecraft again. You know, I'm now, even though I just did a whole series, or I just did a personal playthrough in Java Edition, you know, going to doing the ancient city, and all that stuff, you know, minor prank war, which as far as I'm concerned, I won, because I never got pranked back. I won that prank war. But yeah, I now want to play Minecraft again. So if after we do King of Cards, I decide to do a Minecraft stream, or even if I take a break from Fall Guys and chat to do some Minecraft, that might also happen. I don't know. Because we got 4 achievements to get, 3 of which are going to be easy, maybe. I know 2 of them are stupid easy. The third one, we'll see. And the frog one is going to be. I know. People have done it right in the Bedrock world. Somebody made a magma cube farm, but I'm not looking forward to doing that, honestly. But yeah, so yeah, I watched that. I've been watching a lot of. I have not been playing any video game. I did Shovel of Hope on like Sunday, and then it's just been, oh well, hey, I'm gonna watch Double Life. Hey, I'm gonna watch Spectacular Spider-Man. So Spectacular Spider-Man got added to Netflix last week. And when it got added, I saw a bunch of people on Twitter talking about how it's like the best Spider-Man show. Or I saw a lot of people also saying it was the second best behind the 90s Spider-Man show. But I was curious, right? A lot of people talk about it. I've seen the 90s Spider-Man show, but that was a long time ago. Like, I'm talking when I was a kid, like 15-ish years ago. So I honestly don't remember much of it. 15, probably like 2008, maybe. Which is, what, 14 years, actually? So yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since I saw the 90s Spider-Man show. And that was, obviously I didn't see it as it was airing. I saw reruns. But I was like, oh, you know what? Okay, I'm kind of curious about the Spectacular Spider-Man. Specifically because I'd seen the clip where it's, where Peter Parker gets forced to, tutor Liz Allen, and they go to like a cafe, but then the cafe gets attacked by the Shocker, or like the Shocker shows up and Peter has to run, and he just goes to Liz and is like, if you're not going to take this seriously, I don't have to be here. So he just leaves, and I was like, oh, that's a really good clip. So I was like, yeah, I'll watch this Spectacular Spider-Man, because yeah, it's from that show. And it was like, oh, it's 26 episodes. That's not bad. 2 seasons, 13 apiece. That's not bad at all. Sure, I'll watch that. So I sat down and watched it. And yeah, it's good. I definitely don't think it's like, right, it's not like the most amazing thing ever. It's no Batman the Animated Series, obviously. Maybe it's comparable to The Batman or Batman the Brave and the Bold. But yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it. I will always be a Batman guy first, before I'm a Spider-Man guy. But yeah, I liked it. It does a lot of, you know, right. It does a lot of like, oh well, hey, we're gonna start off with Vulture, and then we're gonna go to Shocker, and hey, boom, In the first episode, he stops a bank robbery by Flint Marko. And later on, and some other guy. And Flint Marko, right, is Sandman. The other guy becomes the Rhino. Doc Ock shows up in the first episode, but, he's not gone villainous yet. And it's just a very solid show. Spider-Man's fighting all these villains. He's best friends with Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy. And it was nice because early on in the show, they build up that his name, right, like Mary Jane's there. And they're slowly, like, building it up. And then she gets introduced in the show. And it was like, oh, okay. So now Peter, everyone's always like, oh, Peter Parker is supposed to be like anybody. Like, anybody can be Spider-Man. And I agree with that. Anybody can be Spider-Man. But when you look at Peter Parker's lives, for being this nerdy kid, he has so many girls chasing after him. It's like 5. Because there's Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, Liz Allen. Technically, he's chasing after Betty Brant. But that's 4. And then there's Felicia Hardy as Black Cat. So yeah, in this show, he's got like 5 different girls who all like him for different reasons. And that's your everyman, Peter Parker, everybody. It's basically an Adam Sandler level, right? That's the joke in like Adam Sandler movies, is that, oh, it's some generic, right? Adam Sandler is this pudgy guy who gets all these beautiful women. But yeah, no, the whole Mary Jane thing, of course my team's gone. That was all good. With her being the next door neighbor that Peter doesn't want to meet because she's got a quirky personality. There's a certain way Alan May describes her. They do full Uncle Ben. There's the moment at the end of the it's near the end of the first season when because he gets the black suit. Like early on in this, right, he's working for J. Jonah Jameson, and you find out that Jameson's son, right, he's the astronaut, he goes to space, and he comes back with the symbiote that latches onto Peter. Well, technically, Felicia steals it, but Peter tries to, but then fails. But yeah, there's a whole thing with that he gets the symbiote in the whole flashback scene because they don't do, like, the show doesn't start off with the death of Uncle Ben. Like, Spider-Man's already been a hero for a little bit. Like, he's more of like a myth, right? Like, he's stopping small town crooks before the Vulture shows up in the first episode. Because there's the big man who, when they said the big man, my first thought was Tombstone, right? Like, oh, we're building towards Tombstone. Or my first thought was Kingpin, but no, it turns out to just be Tombstone. So that was kind of a disappointment. It's not that big of a deal, but, I was like, oh, they're building up towards Kingpin, yeah. Nah, it's just Tombstone. And there are other Mafia bosses that, I also kind of don't care about as well. Hammerhead's there, and he works for Tombstone. I know Kingpin's also a Daredevil villain, but after playing the Spider-Man PS4 game, that's just what I think of. Okay, I have to focus here for a second. Oh my god. Oh my god, I have no idea how I survived that. Holy shit. Come on, just end. Just give it to me. Give it to us. No! Come on! Did you see how freaking long that went? Holy shit. I know multiple people can win that round. What the That's bullshit. That's some fucking bull. Especially after I survived falling down at that one point. That's some bullshit. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, so the whole Venom thing, we get the whole, the Venom background thing. And it's basically, so by this point you can tell the Sam Raimi movie, this show, well, I know the Sam Raimi movie is very heavily influenced by the comics, right? It takes a lot from the comics. But this show both takes a lot from the comics, but it also does take a lot from the Sam Raimi movie. Like, there are scenes in this show that are just shot for shot the Sam Raimi movie. Like, it's a lot like that. But that's not a problem, you know, because they don't actually show us the Sam Raimi movie. But yeah, he gets the Venom suit, and that's all really good. And yeah, instead of like going to like Reed Richards to get the sonic gun to defeat the Venom suit, which is so weird, you know, playing out with the church bells, that's way more just symbolic and interesting than getting the sonic gun from Reed Richards. And one of the things is, like, Venom's sound weakness actually, like, barely comes up in the show, because to defeat Venom, right, he gets, like, trapped in his mind, and he ends up, or, you know, to defeat the black suit, and he has to, like, relive his memories and conquer them, and that's what allows him to defeat Venom. And then Eddie Brock, like, okay, so Peter Parker's always, right, it's with great power comes great responsibility, which is what Peter Parker always says, but his actions never match up with his words, right? So, like, there's, early on, right, he's got an internship working for Kurt Connors, along with Gwen Stacy and Eddie Brock, but he then uses that position to take pictures of himself as Spider-Man fighting the Lizard to get a job working at the Bugle. And that, like, makes Eddie Brock start to hate him. And then it just gets worse and worse, man. Like, he keeps doing stuff that kind of dicks over Eddie Brock. And yeah, like, in one hand, like, I kind of get why Eddie hates him. Because it is, like, the whole thing with Kurt Connors and, like, taking the pictures of Spider-Man, it really is a dick move. And he does it more than once. Like, shit, not like that exact same thing, because eventually he gets his internship back. Yeah, I totally get why, Eddie Brock hates him. But I definitely, like, definitely once he gets the Venom suit, it starts to drive him a little bit crazy, that's for sure. But yeah, the whole thing about fighting Eddie, because Eddie's like, oh, I'm gonna kidnap the one you love. And he's like, oh, is it gonna be Mary Jane? Is it gonna be Liz? No, it's Gwen Stacy. Because, yeah, throughout the entire show, even up until the end, Peter doesn't view Gwen like, they never get together. Like, the first season, he doesn't view Gwen romantically. And in the second season, he tries to get together with Gwen, but they don't. And then Gwen is like, oh, because Gwen starts dating Harry in the second season. And it's like, oh, I'm going to go break up with Harry. But then his dad dies because, you know, Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. So now she can't break up with him. And that's where the show fucking ends. Because, yeah, Harry's kind of, he's kind of a little asshole because he starts doing drugs to, you know, be better at football to impress the jocks. Because it's right, the same thing. Norman kind of hates Harry and likes Peter. Like, Peter is the son Norman's always wanted. Whereas Harry's just a disappointment. So he starts doing drugs to get on the football team. Which, for the first season anyways, makes it like, oh, Harry is the Green Goblin. You eventually find out that that's a lie. Because, yeah, full spoilers for a 15-year-old show. Something like that anyways. But yeah, Norman is the Green Goblin. Because, yeah, Norman, like, he's working for Tombstone to create supervillains to distract Spider-Man. But then later on, when the Green Goblin shows up, it's like, oh, these guys just want to distract Spider-Man. What you gotta do is you gotta kill Spider-Man, which then creates like Molten Man and whatnot. It's a good show. The one twist that really surprised me, that I straight up did not see coming, is at the very end of the show, you meet the Raft shows up, right? The supervillain prison, and and Spider-Man is testing the Raft to make sure it has tight enough security. But you know, Arkham Asylum style, he gets trapped inside the Raft, and now has to break his way out while a bunch of supervillains are trying to stop him. But at the same time, Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, is breaking in to try to bust her father out. And then in a twist I did not see coming, you find out that Black Cat's dad is the guy who shot Uncle Ben. That one, like, I know, right, in the Sam Raimi movies, it's Flint Marko. Right? Whatever. But and especially because, you know, the other guy who Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the guy they think killed Uncle Ben dies, right? Not kind of by his hand. And they have and again, this movie is heavily inspired by the Sam Raimi thing. So you have a very similar setup, except he doesn't kill the guy. But then you find out, no, it's because he doesn't kill the guy. I actually don't know which one it was. You find out, yeah, he didn't kill the guy, and the guy is Felicia Hardy's dad. And Spider-Man's like, no, I'm not going to let you set him free. He has to pay for what he did. Right? He has to, and even her dad is like, yeah, no, I have to stay here. I want to be a better, and sacrifices, not sacrifices, but like he stays behind so that way the Felicia and Peter can get out. But then afterwards, she's like, she saves Spider-Man from the Green Goblin and tells him, like, I won't forgive you for what you for leaving my dad behind. And I was like, oh, that's fucking juicy, man. But then, yeah, then it's eventually revealed that because Doc Ock, Tombstone, and Silver Sable's dad are all arrested at the end. And it's like, okay, this creates a power vacuum, Green Goblin takes over, and then, surprise, surprise, Green Goblin is Norman Osborn, who fakes his death. And that's where the show ends. Like, clearly this was the type of show that was supposed to get another season. Right? Like, obviously, I think the show was supposed to get another... Honestly, I could easily see the show getting 3 more seasons. Easily. There's more than enough to do here to get 3 more seasons. Because, I mean, they tackle a lot of Spider-Man villains, right? They obviously do get a lot. They never... And I don't know if the show would ever do Carnage. But, right, there's still, I think, so much more they could have done with this. Especially because, like, you see... So, right, Gwen Stacy's one of the love interests. And I was just like, oh, God, are they going to kill Gwen Stacy in this show? But it's like, oh, they'll kill Gwen Stacy when her and Peter get together. But then her and Peter never get together, so they never kill Gwen Stacy. So, like, that, and again, it kind of ends on this note of, like, hey, guess what? Norman Osborn, still alive. He just faked his death. And, Gwen Stacy's still dating Harry, even though Gwen Stacy is the girl Peter loves. Right? I know Peter and MJ, even though, God, I fucking... It's, right now in the comics, Peter and MJ are broken up. But yeah, Gwen Stacy is the original girl that Peter loved. You know, she means more to him. And it's this whole thing about Mary Jane is the other girl, right? The one he took after he couldn't get with Gwen Stacy. Because she died. And then there's... God, don't even get me started on the clones and all the other bullshit. You know how, like, they recently retired Superman, and I'm all aboard for Jonathan Kent taking over as just becoming the new Superman, and I'm all aboard Miles Morales being the new Spider-Man. I was all aboard Ben Reilly being the new Spider-Man. Let Peter Parker finally retire. Maybe his new greatest responsibility is his kid, his potential kid, because there's that alternate timeline with the cancer, but, fuck all that shit. I think it's time for Peter Parker to retire as Spider-Man, to finally have a kid with MJ, and, to just, that's his, right, with great power comes great responsibility. Well, now he's a dad. Being a dad is his new responsibility. We were 1 second away from tying it up. Yeah, no, I think I'm ready for Peter Parker to retire. Bring back Ben Reilly for the 5th time. Just make Miles Morales full-on Spider-Man. I kind of don't really care how they do it. I really do think it is time for Peter Parker to retire. And I'll say the same thing for Batman. I think it's time for Bruce Wayne to retire as Batman and let Tim Drake take up the full role. I think it's been time for a while now. And of course you can still have you can do time travel shenanigans. You can have the characters come out of retirement for one-off specials or whatever. But I really do. I like this idea of the next generation of hero, because these guys have been heroes since the 30s, man. It really is like one of the things I really like about the MCU Spider-Man is how well they adapt Spider-Man to the modern era, right? Because Spider-Man, the story of Spider-Man was written in the 50s, and even in the Sam Raimi movie, you can kind of still see it. In the Garfield movie, you can kind of still see it. But in the Tom Holland one, no, this is something that's this is modern day. And you can tell because of Flash Thompson. In the MCU, I know people don't like Flash Thompson in the MCU, but I think it's indicative of the modern day that Flash Thompson is the bully who picks on Peter Parker, but he's not some macho athlete. He's a nerd who's even by default smaller than Peter, but he's still a bigger bully. But he's still just as much, maybe not a bigger bully, but he's just as much of a bully, because guess what? Being this big macho jock doesn't mean as much anymore when it comes to bullying, because all bullying is done verbally and through the internet anonymously nowadays. Right? It's a little thing that really does show that, yeah, this is an adaptation of Spider-Man for the modern era. Also with Spectacular Spider-Man, that scene that they do it in Homecoming. It's from the comics, where Peter Parker gets the building dropped on him and he lifts it up. Ooh, I wonder what stopped that. Right, you know that scene where he gets the building and he has to use all of his strength. They do that in Spectacular Spider-Man, and I don't remember the context is he's trying to save Gwen Stacy. Right, they're in a building that's flooding, and he's about to die, because Doc Ock drops just self-destructs the building, but he has to lift up the building to save Gwen Stacy, and it's just not as good. Right, it's one of the few scenes that I think the show is overall solid, but I did not like their execution of that scene. Definitely both Homecoming and the comics do it better. But yeah, that's just something that happened that I did want to bring up. But yeah, that's Spectacular Spider-Man. I honestly, for 26 episodes, I do recommend it. Yeah, I wish there was more, it's a pretty solid show. It's got a pretty good cast. So yeah, I do recommend it. I would like to see more of it. And it's not an adaptation of the Spectacular Spider-Man comics, which Spectacular Spider-Man comics was when Doc Ock took over Peter Parker, they mind swapped with Peter Parker. It's not doing that at all. And it's just another telling of Spider-Man's origin. It would be, I also, the thing I realized watching this Spider-Man show, everyone always, every Peter Parker we've got, almost, is high school. We always start off with high school Peter Parker. As far as I know, the 90s Spider-Man show, high school. The Spectacular Spider-Man, high school. the Spider-Man show from a few years ago, the what 2011-ish, also high school as far as I know. Again, Tobey Maguire I think graduates high school in the first movie. Andrew Garfield graduates it at the end of the second movie, and Tom Holland's gets his GED. He's presumably gonna get his GED and be in like Empire State next, in whatever the next movie is potentially. Something I did not realize though. So we always get all these high school Peter Parkers, but in the comics, Peter Parker hasn't been in high school for like, I'm gonna guess 40 years. It might be longer than that, but I'm gonna guess 40 years. But the thing I do like is the PS4 game. Because in the PS4 game, he's graduated college. Right? It's a Spider-Man who's been around the block. Right? Get all these villain introductions, the Rhino, Rhino, Vulture, Scorpion, which the show never does Scorpion, I should say, Spectacular Spider-Man. But yeah, it really does just skip over all of that. And instead we see a post-college Peter Parker. And spoiler alert, at the end of Miles Morales, he's becoming a high school teacher. Right? He technically doesn't get the job, but he talks about applying for a job as a high school teacher, which is something Peter Parker did in the comics for a while. So yeah, I'm actually that's something that I hadn't even thought about, but something that I think makes the PS4 game really special is the fact that it's not just another teenager Peter Parker, but instead this adult. And that's also what I like about Peter B. Parker in Spider-Verse, is he's this older Peter Parker who was pretty much the comic book one, right? Whereas the one who dies at the beginning of Spider-Verse is, the Raimi one, the one we know. Whereas Peter B. Parker, the one who mentors Miles, is the Spider-Man of the comics. And yeah, so it's just something I've been thinking about. Like, every Spider-Man adaptation is high school, with the exception of the PS4 game. Of course, the PS4 game still has like so much to they're doing Venom. Doc Ock was like the Doc Ock, Mr. Negative. They hint. They don't have the Green Goblin in the PS4 game either. Yeah. So yeah, there's still plenty to do. But yeah, a lot of Spider-Man. Anything else I've been enjoying before we get into the two big things? Did I write anything else down? We'll talk about it next week. I was going to talk about it this week. No, we'll talk about it next week. You know what? Screw it. We'll talk about that and Spy X Family. I finished Spy X Family. We'll talk about it next week. Because I kind of forgot about it for a little bit, but I did actually finish it. We'll talk about it next week, and we'll talk about Close Enough, which just got canceled, but I finished it. Technically, I haven't finished it. I finished the second season. By next week, I'll have finished the third. Because, yeah, after I finished regular show, I started Close Enough. But that's like 8 episodes, so that's really short. So yeah, we'll talk about, remind me, and I'll talk about both those next week. So I guess that takes us on to our next big topic, the Owl House. So we talked about the Owl House Season 1, and I really enjoyed it. It reminded me a lot of Gravity Falls, but I still thought, but that's a compliment. Right, it's Gravity Falls, but it's with more, instead of being like this paranormal conspiracy theory, it's magic. And now, having finished Season 2, right, I said comparing it to Gravity Falls is a compliment. Well, I've got a bigger one. I think the Owl House is better than Gravity Falls. It hasn't stuck the land, right? It doesn't have the ending yet. It hasn't stuck the landing. It's been canceled. So, I as far as I know, there's going to be a few more episodes. There's going to be like a few more episodes to wrap up the show. But they wanted more, and Disney canceled them, right? It's kind of like Steven Universe. Steven Universe had 5 seasons, and they were supposed to have 6, but they got canceled and were given 8 episodes to finish the show. And it fucking sucked, right? Those last 8 episodes, while not the worst thing in the world, it didn't all come together, sadly. But I really hope the Owl House can pull it off in whatever they were given. Because as far as I know, they were given something. I don't know how much, but I know they were given, I'm like 80% sure they were given something. And I really hope they can stick the landing. Because the Owl House, I think, might be better than Gravity Falls. And Gravity Falls is fucking amazing. But I think this is better. I was blown away. Like, I really enjoyed the first season. Second season, holy shit, is it so good. Man, I was just so impressed. Beginning to end, it had me so invested. And I enjoyed it so much. And there's just so much good in it. It's so well done. It's well written. It looks fantastic. I like the animation, but the fight scene animation and choreography, top notch. Like, I didn't realize how really good it actually, like in the first season, I think I talked about how good it is. But, like, actually just, like, sitting, like, watching back some of it and being like, yeah, wow, this is just so fluid. Because I finished it, and then I had something else to do, so I put it on in the background, and I had I started back over from the first episode, and I just had it on in the background, and I occasionally glance up, and I saw one of the fight scenes again, and I was like, oh shit, that looks so good. But yeah, in this second season, we're back off where we left off in the first, right where Ida and her sister have lost their powers. They no longer are technically hiding from the Emperor, but the Emperor is trying to do something. So one of the things they talk about in the first season, the Emperor Bellows brings up that he's like not trying to take over the human realm. Right? He's not trying to leave, like, an army of witches into the human realm. Oh, shit. Okay, whatever. And I was like, oh, that's kind of it. You know, that's interesting. Right? Like, that's a nice change of pace. Because, right, I'm so used to, right, these villains, right, who are trying to get this doorway, who are trying to go to the other world to take it over. So, in the second season, it's like, they set it up as if, oh, he's trying to go to the other world to spread magic to it. That's what it sounds like anyways, because early on, he talks to the Coven heads, and he's like, oh, well, we've created the Coven system to, you know, spread magic to the other world. And there was this whole element where I was like, oh, is this gonna be like, oh, he wants to show them that the people of Earth, that, hey, guess what, we can be civilized as well, and yeah, it turns out to be the exact opposite of that. That, no, Bellows actually is a witch hunter who wants to get rid of all magic, and his whole Coven system is like this massive unification spell that will kill everyone with a Coven sigil on it, right? Which kills a bunch of people. And that, yeah, Bellows is actually like a horrible person, which Bellows being a horrible person doesn't surprise me. Because the one thing I will say, so that's one of the things I didn't know. Like, what Bellows' like end goal was, I didn't know. Wait. There's no way we're still in this. So, right, Bellows' end goal, I didn't know. I'll fully admit, I didn't know that. But everything else in every other major reveal, with like one other exception, I knew. So spoiler alert for the second season of The Owl House. Just straight up spoiler. I'm going to spoil the entire thing right now. The internet loves this show, but as a result, they don't keep any of its secrets secret. So before having even watched the first season, I knew that Belos was Philip, right? The human Philip. I knew that reveal. I knew who the right. I knew that he was working with this collector, and that the collector would kill him. I knew that at the end, all Luz, Willow, Gus, Amity, and Hunter would all escape to Earth and be trapped in Earth. I knew that Hunter was some sort of like clone. They call him like a Grimwalker or something. I don't think they ever explain what that is. But he's basically like a clone of maybe not Belos, but like someone like I don't know. I've seen this name, like it's not Clyde, but it's something like that. Like, and that might be Belos' like brother, so he might be a clone of him. I don't know where people are getting that name from. Right? I have no idea where people are getting the name from. But yeah, I knew Hunter was like some sort of like clone or something like that. That was something I knew going in. I knew King was a Titan. I knew about Ida and Rain Whispers. What else? I knew about the Selkie, right? Who was taking Luz's place in the human world. I said the thing about King being a Titan, right? Yeah, basically every major plot point in these like end few episodes, I knew, right? Because the internet loves this show so much that they just couldn't keep all of these things a secret and like let people experience in them. So yeah, before I had even watched the show, and it's not like one person spoiled it for me. It's been a bunch of different people over. I think when did the show end? When did season 2 end? I mean, I think it's been a few. I think it's been like 2 or 3 months now. But yeah, it might have even been. I don't think it was September of last year, but it's been a while, and I honestly kind of don't remember. And God, was it September? Whatever it is, since it ended, the internet just does not keep the show secrets, right? And because I wasn't watching along, I just kind of knew all of them before going in. Now, that doesn't make me think any less of the show. I know there are some people who really like to, not know anything about a show going in, right? Who think spoilers are the worst thing in the world. I don't go out of my way to find spoilers, but I'm also not gonna think of less of a piece of media just because it has been spoiled for me. I know there are some people who treat stuff like that. But yeah, no, knowing basically all this show's secrets, with 2 exceptions, I still really enjoyed it, right? I don't hold it against the show. I don't hold it... I definitely feel like the fan base should chill the fuck out. But I don't hold it against anything, right? I still thoroughly enjoyed it. The other secret, though... So, right, Belos' plan was one of the things. I knew he was working with the Collector. I didn't know the unification spell was going to kill everybody. I just knew something happened, and they had to escape, right? And they were trapped in the human world. The other thing I didn't know... I knew Luz and Amity were... Right, there was, a lot of hinting at them being in a relationship. I did not know they got together. I'm so used to shows getting their gay characters together in, the final episode. Bonnie and Marceline in Adventure Time. Catra and Adora and She-Ra. I'm so used to those things that when Luz and Amity get together... oh gosh, when do they get together? It's 8 they get together 8 episodes in. I was generally oh shit, okay. There's a moment at the start of the 8th episode. There's a moment where I don't remember exactly what Luz says, but she calls Amity like a goddess, and that she goes to say like, oh, I'm trying to figure out a way to create a new door, but she accidentally says like, oh, I'm trying to find a way to create a door into Amity's heart. And I was just like, oh, that's the cutest fucking thing ever. And then by the end of the episode, they're dating. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm so glad. Because again, I'm so used to these shows waiting for the final episode that I'm so happy to see them get together. 8 episodes into the season. And you know that's why Disney canceled it. Right? We know with Steven Universe, the Cartoon Network executives told Rebecca Sugar if she had her wedding, which happens at the end of the season, if she did the wedding at the end of the 5th season, 8 episodes before the end, then they were going to cancel the show. And yeah, she had her wedding, and they only gave her 8 more episodes. They then gave her an entire other season, but that's a whole other thing that I don't even want to get into. But yeah, no, it is pretty... Yeah, fuck Disney executives for canceling this. Right? Fuck them. This is why everybody hates Disney, man. Like, I know people, right, Disney has become for many people a childhood. Right? Like, they're the makers of dreams. But fuck Disney, man. It's so weird. Like, you had that whole thing with, like, Republicans. Because, Mickey Mouse goes into the public domain in 2 years. But Disney's going to lobby lawmakers to, try to get that extended. But I really hope they fail. Because, because Democrats hate Disney. Or, not Democrats, leftists. Leftists hate Disney for, canceling the show and supporting Don't Say Gay bills. Whereas Republicans hate Disney for turning their back on the Don't Say Gay bill after liberals called them out. And leftists, liberals, Democrats. I'm using blanket terms right now. I know they're all 3 different things. But then, also for having a gay kiss that lasted like a single second in Lightyear. Right? All of a sudden now Republicans hate Disney. So I really hope Disney fucking loses and loses the Mickey Mouse copyright. Plus, they're also 150-year copyright or whatever the fuck it is nowadays. Fuck Disney, man. I hope they lose everything. Fuck them. This show may be great, but I don't credit... That's not Disney who made it great. It's Dana Terrace and Alex Hirsch and every other writer or producer or voice actor. They're the ones who made the show great, not Disney. Fuck Disney as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it was so great to see them get together. And then in the next episode of The Eclipse Lake, where Amity goes on the mission... And she's getting the text from Luz, and it's like, oh, it's supposed to be all these cute little relationship things, but Amity doesn't speak texting. That was so cute. And then I love everything with them together. I think they're the cute couple. And I like that they get more serious when they do the wrestling, when they do the backyard wrestling one, and they take it more serious. And you find out, oh, it's the day Luz's father passed away. And, for a moment, it gets kind of quiet, and because it goes into it like they're having a fight. But Luz has been off all day. And that was just a fantastic scene. And a fantastic moment. So, yeah, I love that. I love everything with their relationship. It's so good. It's so cute. I really give the show all the credit for just 8 episodes in, we're gonna do it and stick with it since. The whole bit with the Selkie-Damas, it was a Selkie-Damas, right? My head goes, I know Selkies are creatures, right? The seal skins, but I think they call it a Selkie-Damas specifically. And so I see the, right, because they built it up to make me think that it was evil, right? That the Selkie-Damas was going to be evil, and it was going... is it called? Oh gosh, what is it called? Is it called V? It's either... It's V... I think it's V. Oops, I accidentally just played the episode. I wanted to see if I could get more information. But yeah, that, like, because you get, like, you see, in the first season, you see the letters, and then you see it sitting next to the mom on the couch, and it's like, oh shit, what's going on here? But then finding out, no, it's actually good, and it's just, it was running away from Bellows, and, you know, was pretending to be Luz, because they knew Luz was in the human world. It was really cute. And the voice, I was like, where the fuck do I recognize this voice? And it took me a minute, but I was like, oh, it's Amethyst. I forget the voice actress's name, because I'm terrible with names. But, yeah, it's the same voice actress as Amethyst. But the whole bit with that, and there being, the hunter, the museum curator who captures the Selkie in the other world, that was all good. And the mom fully figuring it out, giving just that heartbreaking moment where Luz is in the headlights, and it's just like, when you get back, you can't go back to the magic world. And then in the next episode, we immediately see the consequences of that, where she doesn't want to tell anybody that she made she promised her mom to not return. It's just, oh, it's so good. And the tension's great there. Everything with, I like how, you know, so I had heard a lot of people say that, like, Amity is, like, a great villain redemption. And you know, there's the golden standard of Zuko. And I really didn't feel like Amity was that sort of, because, well, one, she's not a villain, but two, even as, like, a bully redemption goes, I compare her to someone like Zoe Zimmer in the Miss Marvel comics. And yeah, compared to as a bully redemption goes, I definitely don't think she compares to someone like Zoe Zimmer. I definitely, because she's really only a bully for like 2 episodes. Meanwhile, you have someone like Basha, who's much more of a villain, or bully, who never gets a redemption. And you have the Golden Boy, who also does get his redemption. Who is, you know, the villain, the bully. But I actually really like how they handle the Golden Boy's redemption. Because they do that great... One of the things that makes Zuko's redemption so great is how it ebbs and it flows. For every good thing he does something evil, right? Where you're like, oh, he protected the people of the Earth Kingdom. But, oh, hey, look, the Avatar's back, so now he's going to start chasing the Avatar again. Oh, he helped out Katara? Oh, but he also betrays his uncle to go back home with his sister. Right? For every good thing Zuko does, he does something bad. And that's kind of what happens with the Golden Boy. Oh, he helped out, he helped stop, Kikimora from getting the Palismans. Oh, boom, he's done something good. But then he steals the key from Amity to, you know, give it to, the Emperor. That's bad. And, it's a lot of back and forth leading to him ultimately finding out that he's the Phantom and having to, you know, flee, where he then helps out Gus and Willow, and I think Amity's also there, protect the school, right? You see the ebb and flow of the Golden Boy, Hunter. And so I do really like that. I think Hunter, right, whereas Amity is like, everyone's like, oh, it's this perfect bully redemption. I didn't really see it, because she's not much of a bully in the show. But Golden Boy, I think, is a pretty solid villain redemption. Not, of course, nothing, the golden standard, I don't think will ever be beat. Like, legitimately, Zuko is perfect. But, you know, for a 1-season villain redemption, pretty solid stuff there. Anything else I'm forgetting? Okay, so I know I said that, oh, right, I'm glad they did the relationship. I do definitely think when it comes to, Luz's, not Palanquin, Palisman, I do think they're gonna wait a while on that one. If that would not surprise me if the egg hatches in the final episode. Just straight up. Yeah, what else? Oh, yeah, so they go into, the Emperor's mind. You find out he's Philip, which, yeah, Philip being a witch hunter. Like, I knew Philip and the Emperor were the same thing. I did not know Philip was a witch hunter, right, who was trying to kill them all. So that's a good reveal. That was a good reveal. Especially because, you know, before then you meet Philip, and, you know, he's kind of an asshole. So then finding out that, yeah, you know, him being from the 1600s, I don't think they ever, I don't remember what the town's name is, but there's like a witch museum, right? They're clearly in like I would not be surprised if they're in like a Massachusetts area. Maybe it's because I've been playing Fallout and, you know, you go to the Salem Witch Museum at one point. I would not be surprised if they're in like a Salem, or like, it's not called Salem, but like around that area, because there's the museum and whatnot. And it ends with this whole, right, and that's why Philip, right, it makes sense why he's a witch hunter. That he hates them all because of this. But yeah, his whole plan reveal, and and even up until the last moment, and right, all of the heads are still trusting him. Amity's mom, who knew that, the Unity thing, because like they know that he's got like a different plan, but they don't know that he's actually just going to betray and kill all of them. But yeah, so that was all well done, and I know a little bit of him gets on Hunter at the end, but I kind of do like that the Collector just murks him in like a single hit. Not to show the Collector strong, even though that's what they are, and I have some thoughts on that. Oh wow, an egg scramble. I haven't seen this one in a long time. But yeah, I definitely do think, like, I don't think they're gonna, toffee him, right? Like, I don't think he's fully out, whereas, like, Toffee was fucking... God, Toffee was a fucking mess, you know? I mean, some of it was done well, but some of it definitely wasn't. God, there are so many people here. You know, for once I'm playing offensive. But yeah, so that was all good. The Collector himself, he's clearly just this kid who has god-esque powers. And I do wonder, part of me actually hopes they don't make him into just a straight up, like, evil villain. Like, we know that he was put into, his prison by, King's dad, who's the Titan they all live on. We know that. We know, and right, he just wants to play. And part of me hopes that, yeah, they don't make him... Okay, this is going to be a weird reference, but so, it shouldn't be, but I bet it is. The Fairly Odd Parents. So, you know, Fairly Odd Parents had Channel Chasers as its finale. But then it also had, like, 3 other finales over the years. And one of the other Fairly Odd Parents finales was with Wishology. Which the whole gimmick behind Wishology was, right, it was this dark, nebulous force that was going to destroy all the worlds. And to defeat it, they had to get the Grand Wand, which was sealed in the rock and guarded by a kiss or whatever, which turned out to be the rock band Kiss. I don't know. I remember liking it when it aired. That was years ago now, though. But the twist of Wishology at the end was that this, like, giant, evil, nebulous void was actually just, like, it was good, but it was just lonely. And, right, it was lonely and it wanted friends, so even though it had the capacity to destroy everything, it was actually good. And maybe that always sticks out to me, because that was, like, as, like, a kid, you know, how old was I when the Wishology came out? When did Wishology come out? I'm gonna look this up real quick. 2009. Okay, so I was still... I mean, I was young, not super young, but yeah. So yeah, I think it's totally possible that the Collector kind of goes the same route, right? Because when King occasionally, like, hears him trapped in his, like, bubble in the other world, he talks about how he can't wait to be free to play games, and how, like, lonely it is being trapped in this prison. So I really do hope they don't, right, they're clear. I would say I hope they do something like where it's like, oh, he's a good person, but I'm like 95% sure they will. Like, the Collector isn't gonna be Bill Cipher, right? He's gonna be something else, and yeah, maybe he is good. I don't know. Maybe they do more with him if they had more episodes, but the show got canceled, so who the fuck knows? It wouldn't surprise me if it ended like Heaven's Lost Property either. Right, where it's like, oh, they all become friends in the end, but then the episode, and I'm talking about the anime specifically, right? You have oh gosh, is it Gamma? No, it's not Gamma. It's not Epsilon. Whatever the Angeloid is, that like she like tries to kill them all, but then in the end like she gets a redemption. Right, the manga plays out completely different. Kind of, it plays out completely differently. Kind of, it's complicated, but I wonder if it's gonna just end kind of like the same way. Kind of. It is something to think about. Yeah, but yeah, definitely looking forwards. I see how they're gonna, because since King is a Titan, theoretically they can use his blood to make a new portal and get back to Earth. So I can see that going together that way. That gets them back, and then they go against the Collector. Cause yeah, the Collector personality-wise, I like that the game they use to stop the Collector is called Owl House. It's one of those little things that I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat. Yeah, the Collector. I don't like No Game No. I don't hate No Game No Life. I'm just not. I don't love it, but it's kind of got that sort of the god in that show, who's the god of games. So I wonder if they're gonna do something. Again, No Game No Life is it's a weird show, man. It's got problems. What else? Anything else I haven't talked about? Ida and Rain Whispers, love them together. I love the cats, the covens against the throne. That's fantastic. Everything done there, and I like that Rain. They're a bard magician, and I love that bit where Ida plays the music for them. And the music's corrupted, which, yeah, the corruption's, of course, them trying to corrupt the unification spell wasn't gonna work. Yeah, obviously. But, the whole bit, I love how the bard music works, and then, Rain leaving, Ida behind, because, they don't want to hurt them. It's all just really good, and I hope it all works out in the end. I don't know. I'm sure there are some people who are like, oh, I want this show to have real stakes. I want characters to die. But if you know me, I don't want anybody to die, right? Besides for, the ones who kind of, if Philip comes back, who gives a shit? Right? If Philip dies, whatever. But, and I'm kind of the same way with the Collector. I'm, 90% sure he's going to get redeemed. But if he, ends up, sacrificing himself or something, I would not be surprised either. But, I don't want anybody to die. I don't want Ida to die. I don't want Rain to die. I don't want Lilith to die. Right? The show, not every show needs death. Gravity Falls proves it. Because even though they don't, even after Grunkle Stan loses his memories, he still gets them back in the end. Right? It still ends on a very happy note. So, yeah, I don't think they have to do it. Yeah, so I something I hope for in the final season is no death. We looked at the shop already. I was gonna look at something. Oh, yeah. We gotta win some more rounds of Blast Trial. I'm gonna play more Blast Trial. And then for weekly, we gotta win a show. We gotta emote during survival rounds. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I really do. Again, part of me wants to say right now that I think the show is better than Gravity Falls. But part of me is also waiting to see how it sticks to the ending. So we'll see. And I will be there when it happens. Right? Like now that I'm invested in the show, I'm not gonna wait for like the third season to just come to Disney Plus. Right? Like I was waiting for the first and second seasons. Kind of. But yeah, I just thoroughly enjoy it. I do think it's one of the best things on, and Disney's fucking fools and assholes for canceling it. Because it's so good. Now I gotta start Amphibia. It is interesting how all these shows are connected, right? Like, because at the end of the last episode, you see on, like, her, like, tablet, a news article about a girl who claims to go to a frog world. And, like, that's Amphibia. So... And there's references to other Disney shows as well. Like, I'm, like, pretty sure there was a Gravity Falls reference. I'm pretty sure there was a Big City Greens reference. There was, like, a plush or something at one point in the background. I think that was Big City Greens anyways. I'm pretty sure, like, all modern Disney shows are connected. I don't know. I think we've talked about before, right? How all modern cartoons can trace back to Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Right? Like, all like, these modern day shows have some sort of connection to Flapjack. Which, when you really think about it, makes a lot of sense. But yeah, no, that's probably... I don't know. I'll get around to Amphibia one of these days. I'm not in any rush to watch it. Which maybe I should be. Admittedly, a lot less of that one has been spoiled for me. Some of it definitely has been, but a lot less. Yeah, fan base, you need to calm down. I know you love your show, and you're right to love it. It's really good. But you need to calm down. Actually, I've seen so much good artwork. The amount of great artwork I've seen of Lose and Amity is just fantastic. I don't know, I feel like with Tumblr's pseudo-destruction, the age of classical fandom is kind of over. But I don't know, it's just, you know, I see the occasional thing pop up on my Twitter timeline, and I'm like, oh, that looks so good. It's fucking great artist, great, just all around fantastic stuff. So I guess that takes us to our last thing, which is Miss Marvel Episode 6. So we go from talking about something really good to talking about something good, but not as good. Overall, I liked Miss Marvel. I did like this final episode. I know a lot of people say that Disney Plus shows have weaker finales. And they're right. You know, most of these Disney Plus shows do have weaker finales. Right? I know people really liked Moon Knight's finale. I thought it was okay. But I honestly do think this is the strongest Disney Plus finale. They basically just do Home Alone in a high school, but I actually really do think it works. Right? Them just doing Home Alone, where where Damage Control is trying to bust in and take over. And let's get to the action. Let's do some of the episode stuff before we get into the controversial stuff. Yeah, I think that's all good, right? So at the start, Kamal's family finds out that she's Miss Marvel, which, you know, went better than it did in the comics. I'll say that at least. Does her brother know she's Miss Marvel in the comics? I know. So in the comics, her mom finds out when she goes to save her brother. Then her mom eventually later on tells her dad, and he's originally really pissed off. But, you know, he eventually warms up to it, and then he forgets. Right? And yeah, they just really kind of, like, a lot of the secret identity stuff, like, Nakia and Zoe eventually do in the comics. Plus, they don't have Mike, which Mike is the other their other friend. They do find out in the comics, but it also happens way later on, right? But yeah, so getting all that, it was... I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Owl House how I think Zoe Zimmer is a great villain redemption in the comics. So it is nice to see a little... I really like the character, and I'm glad we see more of her at the end of this at the end of the show, because I feel like... Because the thing about this show is it's felt like two different shows smushed together. You have the stuff in Pakistan is one show, and then the stuff in Jersey is a completely different show. Both shows are really good, but they're just two very different shows at the end of the day. And yeah, what I think makes it more complicated is the fact that we spend the first 2 episodes in the Jersey City part, then we spend the next 3 episodes in the Pakistan part, and then we spend the last episode in the Jersey City part. I mean, technically we are in Jersey City for the entirety of the 3rd episode. It's just the 3rd episode wasn't that great, and I'm mostly thinking of the wedding. Honestly, the wedding is the one good part, which does feel a lot more like the Pakistan part than it does the Jersey City part. Even though, again, it's all kind of a little muddled. I don't know, but no matter how you split the episodes, even if you split it 4 and 2, I do think it just feels like 2 different shows. And that's not always a good thing, you know? There are some people who do not like the show. And of course there are some people who do not like it for racism reasons. Right? No, there are some people who do have legitimate complaints, especially around, like, episodes 3 and 5. And a lot of those complaints are valid. I still think there's a lot of good stuff. Again, I really liked the wedding. The backstory at the start of episode 5 was really solid as well. Right? But again, it feels like a whole different show. But yeah, in this final episode, right, we get that. Then we get the superhero stuff with Miss Marvel defending Kamran from damage control and from himself, honestly, as well. Which, she does do the embiggening thing, which, based on the ending, does give me some very complicated feelings towards things. Because part of me is because, you know, one of the things that was kind of dumb in this show is that, you know, they changed her powers. I know some people really hate the power change. I'm not as annoyed by it as some other people are. Like, I get where some people are coming from. I'm not as annoyed by the power change as others. But then, in this final episode, they give her embiggening powers. So I do wonder if in a future in the Marvels movie, they're going to actually destroy the Bangle, and she's still going to have her embiggening powers because of what happens at the end of the episode. Which I guess... But yeah, I feel like it ends on a solid enough note. I've seen some people say that because of the ending reveal thing, that the people who made the show have never read the comics. That's a fucking lie, straight up. There's tons of stuff. Yeah, they changed things, definitely. But the show is very similar to the comics. And the ending speech of her sitting on the roof talking to her dad is straight out of the comics. Of course the people who made the show read the comics. What the fuck are you guys talking about when you say that shit? Like, that's what makes Marvel good, is that they know that they do actually pay attention to the comics. They change things, sure, but a lot of things they change are good. I know some people are shitting on Thor Love and Thunder for changing a lot from the comics as well. And yeah, sure, some of the stuff with Jane Foster, completely valid. Specifically the ending. But, some of it, no. Like, they clearly... And they do read the comics. I feel like people... Right? I feel like since Thor... Or specifically because of Thor, a lot of people have turned on Marvel Comics and Kevin Feige. But no, they do actually read the comics. Right? And for once, I can actually say with certainty that they do read the comics because I've read the comics. And while things are changed... Like, again, in the comics, Kamran is a villain. That's definitely a change here. Because I was still expecting... Right, when he found out his mother was dead, I was fully expecting him to go villain. But no, he doesn't. I mean, he definitely tries to, hurt damage control, but he doesn't go full villain, and I like that. I think that's again, it's kind of like a different character, but that's not a bad change at all. It's a change. But yeah, the show definitely has problems. I'm not going to say it doesn't. But I do think there is a lot of good here as well. I really do. I think I do think it's one of the stronger MCU shows at the end of the day. Someone did actually point out that when it comes... So, right, a lot of people's complaints about the MCU shows tend to apply to all of the MCU shows. Right? Like, the problem with, pacing. That's a problem that all the MCU shows have. And someone pointed out the reason they all have that problem is because most of these shows were filmed at the same time. Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision were filmed at the same time. And then Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, the one I'm forgetting, were all filmed at around the same time. So, all the complaints we have about these shows, well, yeah, they haven't been addressed because all these shows have been filmed for a year now. It's kind of wild to think about, but yeah, it's completely true. I mean, Hawkeye was broken up, right? Partially before the pandemic, partially after the pandemic. But yeah, so that's why we're not seeing, that's why all of these shows have similar problems, is because they were all filmed at the same time. I don't know, it was something I saw, and I was like, wow, that's actually an amazing point to bring up. Doesn't excuse anything, but it's a good explanation as to why it is like it is. But that gets us to our big reveal at the end of the episode. That Kamala is a mutant. So, one of the weird things this show did is they made Kamala a clandestine. The clandestines are technically a thing in the comics, but nobody gives a shit about the clandestine. Really, it's they've been in 20 books total since their inception, who knows how long ago. Right? They're a nothing in the comics. But instead, Kamala is an Inhuman. One of the most, if not the most notable Inhuman. I mean, I saw somebody say oh, can you name an Inhuman other than Black Bolt, Medusa, and Lockjaw, the dog Lockjaw, and Kamala. And yeah, that's a good point. Really, those are the only 4 Inhumans that matter. I can name one more, Ulysses. But other than that, no, because nobody gives a shit about the Inhumans except for Mike Perlmutter, who, used to run Marvel. And I'm convinced. Okay, you want my big theory here? Kamala in the comics would have been a mutant if it wasn't for the fact that Marvel / Disney did not own the rights to the mutants. Because if you remember, there was a period in time where Marvel actually canceled all Fantastic Four comic books. Because, they didn't want to... Because Fox owned Fantastic Four. They didn't want to make any more Fantastic Four stuff because Fox owned Fantastic Four. And they're making their own movies. So Marvel just canceled... I don't think that's still true. But yeah, there was a period where there just weren't Fantastic Four books. And I think it's the same thing with Kamala. It would not surprise me at all if Kamala, at some point... I think there's been some contradiction to this. But if Kamala would have been a mutant in the comics, but because Marvel didn't own the film rights to the X-Men, they made her an Inhuman instead. So I don't think making Kamala a mutant actually changes anything. Specifically because I don't think it's going to change her character at all. At the end of the episode, she literally says, oh, it's just another label. Right? So, yeah, it's just another label. Her having the label of Inhumans in the comics really hasn't done anything. I mean, yeah, she interacted early on. She interacted with Lockjaw and Medusa, because I think Black Bolt was dead at the time. But that only happened for the first, like, I want to say like 18 issues, and that's maybe being generous. And then after that, right, I don't think she's interacted with any of those characters since then. Mainly because, well, partially because they're all the Inhumans died at some point, I think. But again, nobody gives a shit about the Inhumans other than those 4 characters. And people don't even really give a shit about those 4. I mean, Black Bolt, fuck, there's a reason Black Bolt is like the first to get murked in Multiverse of Madness. So yeah, literally making Kamala an Inhuman, or a mutant, changes nothing, in my opinion. Because even if the X-Men show up on Krakoa, she's just not going to interact with them, you know? Like, I mean, she will, but she's not going to, like, she's not going to go live on the island of Krakoa and be a Krakoan superhero. No, she's still the hero of Jersey City. Right? Like, none of that's going to change. So I think, again, I think it has something to do with X-Men not owning, or with Marvel not owning the film rights to X-Men, in the same way they didn't own the rights to the Fantastic Four, and how Ike Perlmutter was trying to use Inhumans as a replacement. I mean, the Inhumans, like, yeah, sure, nowadays the mutants have Krakoa, but, I mean, the Inhumans live on the fucking moon. Nobody gives a shit about them. I know. I know that's hyperbole, right? Every comic book character is somebody's favorite. Somewhere's out there is a huge Black Bolt stan who is really pissed off he died in Multiverse of Madness. Right. There's totally, because every comic book character is somebody's favorite. But in the generation at large, nobody gives a shit about the Inhumans, but people love the X-Men. And yeah, this, admittedly, Kamala being the MCU's first mutant is kind of weird. Well, I mean, again, technically Professor X showed up in Multiverse of Madness, but first, like, mainline mutant. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but we'll see where they go with it. I don't know, I really need to read, House of X and, Powers of 10. Or Powers of X. I think, even though I would think it's House of X and Powers of X, I think it's House of X and Powers of 10. Again, I've never read these comics. But I really need to. At some point. Because I hear X-Men is the most accessible it has ever been. Because X-Men's crazy. Like, seriously, like, they're one of Marvel's most popular for a reason. Because they're crazy. But I hear the modern day X-Men's pretty good. The Krakoan era. Maybe I'll start reading it. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Honestly, I think Kamala being an Inhuman, a mutant, it really doesn't change much. And I think, and again, they give her the Bangle, and I think it's totally possible the Bangle gets destroyed in the Marvels. And she just now has her, and because she's a mutant, she now just has her embiggening powers. I totally think that's possible. If I had to guess, that's what I'd guess. I just hope she didn't get transported to the planet, and now they think she's a chosen one. Because the episode ends off with Kamala being, like, transported away and switching places with Carol Danvers. And now Carol Danvers is, like, in her room, which is, you know, the lead into The Marvels, the movie coming out next year. And yeah, it's a fine lean in. You know, I know the actress who plays Kamala Khan, who, if I had one thing that I want to, like, highlight is, like, the best thing in this show, it's Kamala Khan and the actress who plays her. A fantastic job. Marvel always nails it with the casting. And yeah, the perfect casting for Kamala Khan. The actress did an amazing job. And yeah, according to her, she actually has a larger, like, she expected to, you know, just have another cameo in the Marvels. But no, she actually has a much larger role, she admitted. Or at least than she thought. And, you know, she's a huge fan of the comics as well, and, you know, everything like that. I have full... I know a lot of people have problems with Phase 4 of the MCU. But I see that and I'm like, there's our future. Right? In the same way, The Last Jedi, you see the kid holding the broom at the end and it's like, that's the future of Star Wars. I look at Kamala Khan in the MCU and I'm like, that's the future of Marvel right there. We're in good hands. You know? I don't know. I don't know. Admittedly, I said that about Star Wars at the end of The Last Jedi, and then they completely fucked it up, and since then I have not liked Star Wars at all. So it's still totally... I don't know. A lot of people are jaded with Phase 4. I'm not as jaded as everyone else is. I do get some of the complaints, totally, but I'm definitely not as cynical as other people are. That's for damn sure. Because some people are fucking cynical. God damn. But no, I don't think... Like, some people are like, oh, everything's done, right? Everything's ruined. Nah, it's gonna be fine. Hopefully. And people give Phase 1 of the MCU way too much fucking credit. Like, literally all it was leading up towards was a team-up movie. That's it. What was gonna happen in that team-up movie? I mean, I guess Loki was hinted at the end of Thor, but really, there's not much. And because, again, Marvel didn't even know if they were going to get that team-up movie. They wanted it, but there was no guarantee that was going to happen. Right? Like, I remember the day Marvel got bought by Disney. But no, so yeah, Phase 4 right now is very unclear. And it's weird it's not ending with a team-up movie. Yeah. But now I think the bigger question is, are we going to get the Champions? Are we going to get the Young Avengers? I saw someone say that, like, oh, Kamala, we're going to get, right, Kamala, that were, like, someone made, like, a fan list of, like, what characters they thought would be in the Young Avengers. Right? They were like, we're going to get Young Avengers, and they put Kamala Khan. And then someone replied, and it's like, no, Kamala Khan's not going to join the Young Avengers. She has her own team, the Champions. I'm going to say it right here, right now. So in the comics, Kamala Khan, right, Miss Marvel, is a member of the Avengers. Not the Young Avengers, just the straight-up Avengers. But I'm going to call it right now. She's going to, in the MCU, she's going to become a member of the Young Avengers. But then at the end of the Young Avengers movie, she's going to have grown, like, disillusioned with the Young Avengers. And is instead going to start her own team, the Champions. Because that's what happens in the comics. Following the events of Civil War II, she grows disillusioned with the Avengers and starts the Champions. So I think something very similar is going to play out. But instead of growing disillusioned with the normal Avengers, she's going to grow disillusioned with the Young Avengers. So yeah, I do think Kamala Khan's going to be a member of the Young Avengers. At least for a time. I don't think we can get over there. Yeah, we can't. Ah, shit. Someone's gonna have to push it. Either that, or the wall gets low enough. But yeah, any other thoughts? No, I'm just... I think the show... I think it's one of the better MCU shows. Would I say it's the best? I don't know. Part of me, I've actually been thinking recently, like, I actually really did like Moon Knight. And one of the things I liked about Moon Knight that... I know some people are probably going to disagree with me on this. Is that Moon Knight is Moon Knight, right? It's not just... Moon Knight as a show was not just another origin story. Like, it's... In this show, it's like, oh, at the end of the episode, at the end of this final episode, she has the name Miss Marvel and she has the costume. And that's how a lot of these MCU shows have worked, right? at the end, and like some of them, like it makes sense, right? Falcon becoming Captain America at the end of his show, that makes perfect sense. But right, like, and Kate Bishop becoming, I mean, she technically doesn't even get called Hawkeye at any point in the show. I don't think, anyways. But one of the things I did like about Moon Knight is that, yeah, he's just Moon Knight from the first episode. In fact, it's working the opposite way. That by the end of the episode, he thinks he's no longer Moon Knight, that he's broken free, but that's not the case. I don't know. It's a minor thing, but it's something I did like. I don't know. But yeah, I like it. It does, I still do totally think, though, that it does feel like two different shows. And part of me, I don't think would have that much of a problem with it being two different shows if it was longer. Right? Because it's only 6 episodes, I feel like there's a lot less you can do in those 6 episodes. But if the show was longer, then there'd be a lot more room for flexibility, you know? They'd be able to do a lot more, but they can't because they only have 6 episodes. And the show feeling like two different shows wouldn't matter nearly as much. And I guess that takes us to the end. We'll talk about Spy X Family next week, as we will Close Enough, which just got canceled. And I had actually started watching, because after I finished regular show, I was like, oh, I should finish Close Enough. And then the news came in yesterday that it had been canceled. Maybe 2 days ago, I kind of don't remember. Yeah, we'll talk about those next week. But yeah, anything else? No. So yeah, we'll be back next week with, King of Cards, you know. I'm excited to do King of Cards, because I've played it twice. I did look it up, yeah, I've played through it twice. So it'll be nice to do a third playthrough, especially after playing all the other Shovel Knight campaigns. And then who knows where we go from there. We gotta do the Bugsnax DLC at one point. I am the Isle of Big Snacks. I am rather curious. Gosh, that's it. We're already out. One hit in this map, and it can literally just take you out. It's not guaranteed, but okay, now it is. That's how good people got at this one. Nope. If we were, again, just a little bit more, but 1 or 2 hits and you're out. So yeah, we didn't win a single game tonight. That kind of sucks. Whatever. I'm not too beat up over it. Yeah, at some point we'll do mine, because you know I got the 1.8 19 achievement hunt. Yeah, it's 1.19. So we got all those achievements to get, and there's a lot of achievements. It's like 4 or 5, but some of them are gonna be a pain in the ass. So maybe instead of doing Fall Guys next week, we'll start achievement hunting. I don't know. I really haven't decided. I kept forgetting to do that emote. Whatever. You know, let's do one round of blurring the ball. Since we gotta qualify just a little bit more, let's just do one more round. Sure, why not? Because I want that XP. Yeah, so you know that thing where it's like, oh, I say it all the time. I think it's a Vine Sauce said it first. Vinny Vine Sauce. That streaming is 90% technical errors, 10% actual streaming. Yeah, I've been having audio issues all stream, and now it's like, fuck, how am I gonna fix them? Like, that's what I gotta figure out now, is how do I fix these fucking audio issues? Oh, God. I don't even know where to begin, honestly. Like, that's the thing. I don't even know. Because, like, video I can do some trial and error. But audio has never been my forte. Mainly because I hate the sound of my own voice. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin looking into these audio issues. I always feel like there's something I'm forgetting about. Oh God, so I'm behind on all my podcasts right now, with the exception of Fuckface. Fuckface is the only podcast I am currently caught up on, because I think it's one of the best. And I started listening to the most recent episode, and it starts off with this story about Andrew Patton and whether or not he got the tuxedo from the tuxedo. And so I'm listening to it, and he's doing this whole like spiel, right? Like that's the first like 10 minutes of the episode. He hasn't said whether or not he's got it. He's just talking about like the process of just trying to get it. So I'm listening to it, and like I'm 10 minutes in, and then something comes up, and I had to walk away. And so for the next like 3 hours, I didn't know if he had gotten the tuxedo or not. So every once in a while, like I'm doing other stuff, and every once in a while I think back and be like, oh my God, I don't even know if he got it or not. Eventually I did get back, and I did finish listening to the episode, and yeah, he does get it. But I was, man, that was a whole thing. So that map that I keep seeing, that I'm like, so some of those maps I don't like the one with all the hammers. There's clearly one that's like a variant of walls, but it has like little like fucking croquet things at the bottom. But the one that I keep seeing is the Sonic level. There's one that I think it's called Bean Hill Zone. It might not be. It's something like that. I can actually look it up. It's called Bean Hill Zone. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think it's in the game yet. But we know. But I talked earlier in the week about how I'd seen the new Sonic skins. There's a Super Sonic, a Tails, and a Dr. Robotnik. But yeah, there's a Sonic-themed level called Bean Hill Zone, which is just a like, honestly, the name sells me on the level alone. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that thing that I keep seeing is Bean Hill Zone. When like the wheel spinning is Bean Hill Zone. Gosh dang it. These balls just, I know there's a thing where like if you hold them, you don't get knocked back. But I don't know if, like, other people, like, hit them, they get knocked back less, or... Right? Because, like, if you notice when I'm holding it, I don't take any knockback damage at all. Okay, that time oh my god, I got myself out there. Because normally, yeah, when you're holding them, you don't take that much knockback damage. But that time, I just took a bunch. Okay. So yeah, I just want... Because I don't care about money anymore. I just want the XP. From the last trials. I know we have to do one more round now, but... I care about the XP. We will finish the season pass soon. Like... We'll have finished the season pass before you know it. We're getting close. Probably another, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks. Just looking at the season pass, if we're at 74. I know somebody who is... Oh, maybe we are where they are? Or at least last I checked. Wait. Huh, I thought they were farther along. They might be, like, around here-ish somewheres. I don't remember. Like, they might... Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they were around here. It's funny, I got that... I'm dedicated donut. I've got a donut backpack, and I don't think I'll ever use it. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna end off for the night. I'm good. You know, honestly, I'm good. Next time, again, we'll be back with King Card soon. Finally, we're done with Pokemon. God, that took forever. We started that in May. Yeah. Bean Hill Zone. I think it's a ring collecting one though. That's the one problem. Is I don't think it's a level, but it's like ring collecting, which, yeah, that's kind of disappointing. But yeah, with that, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time. Peace.